Some archaeological finds have to be seen to be believed. Unearthing old pottery or forgotten tombs is pretty standard stuff for an archaeologist, but some days and some discoveries are very special. We're talking about the kinds of discoveries that break the mold and make the whole world stop and stare. They feel almost unreal, but every single one is authentic, and each has its own wild story to tell. This video brings you those exact stories, so stay tuned till the end. Number 5. Jaguar God Cave. The Jaguar God Cave near Chichen Itza has been wrapped in secrecy for decades. Discovered by local farmers in 1966, it was quickly sealed off by authorities without any kind of explanation. For over 50 years, no one, even the ultra-rich, was allowed inside. Theories swirled. What was so secret it had to be buried? When the cave was finally reopened, archaeologists found a treasure trove of 1,000-year-old Mayan artifacts, many of them untouched and perfectly preserved thanks to the cave's sealed-off conditions. Sculptures of Balaam, the ancient Mayan jaguar deity, line the site, giving it its name. Alongside them were incense holders, ceremonial grinding stones, and intricate plates. What archaeologist Victor Segovia Pinto found there in 1966 before the cave was closed remains a mystery. He never shared what he saw and passed away with those secrets intact. Some things about this cave may never be fully explained. But what's left behind still tells a story, and it's louder than the silence it sat in for decades. Number 14. Dacian fortresses. In the western Carpathians of Romania, the Dacian fortresses of the Orishti Mountains stretch across stone and forest like echoes from another dimension. Built roughly 2,300 years ago, these 6 fortified complexes have stood the test of time, earning UNESCO World Heritage recognition in 1999. Their walls, crafted from limestone and andesite, weren't local. They were brought in from miles away, revealing how much effort went into shaping these sacred sites. But the real mystery sits at Sarmazagatusa Regia, a circular stone structure nicknamed the Solar Disk. Divided into 10 segments, with a 16-block arrow pointing outward, it's believed to have had some kind of astronomical use. Nothing else like it exists, not in Romania, not anywhere else in this world. And while we know the Dacians were brilliant engineers and warriors, we still can't quite explain how they tracked celestial movement with this kind of precision. Well, archaeologists are still digging. Until they figure it out, the stars and stones continue to hold their secrets. Number 13. Sumerian wrist reliefs. Sumerian art has always stood out for its detail, but some bas reliefs have left researchers scratching their heads for another reason. The people depicted appear to be wearing something suspiciously close to wristwatches. These aren't vague shapes. They're rectangular, banded, and even include small dot patterns that resemble watch faces. The reliefs date back over 4,000 years. It's easy to write this off as stylized jewelry, but that explanation doesn't quite stick. Sumerians already had an advanced grasp of timekeeping, astronomy, and medicine. Their calendar system was more accurate than many that came after it, and they credited much of this knowledge to their creators, the Anunnaki, beings from the stars according to their mythology. Some see the wristbands as proof of early tech, maybe even extraterrestrial involvement. Others say we're just looking too hard. But no matter how you explain it, seeing a clearly shaped timepiece on the wrist of someone from 2700 BCE does make you stop and stare. Number 12. Waffle Rock. There's a chunk of rock sitting by Jennings Randolph Lake in West Virginia that looks like someone stamped a perfect waffle pattern into it. We mean, just look at it. The only thing is, no one actually did. The grid-like design looks engineered, but geologists disagree. According to the U.S. Army Corps of Engineers, it's a 300-million-year-old piece of sandstone that cracked during tectonic shifts. Iron oxide seeped into those cracks, creating the geometric crisscross of raised lines. That's the official stance, but not everyone's buying it. The symmetry's a little too clean, a little too intentional for random erosion. Some call it a natural wonder. Others say it's an artifact maybe altered by early humans or some long-lost civilization. Despite decades of study, there's still no absolute answer, and that uncertainty is exactly what keeps people coming to see it. Whether you believe it's just ancient rock or something more mysterious, the Waffle Rock remains one of the strangest and most debated geological oddities in the US. Number 11. The Tiny Bronze Age Shoe. In September 2022, Steve Tomlinson was mudlarking along a North Kent shoreline when he came across what looked like a scrap of worn-out leather. But lab tests proved it was anything but modern. It turned out to be a toddler's shoe, dating back to the late Bronze Age between 888 and 781 BCE. Measuring just 6 inches, it's roughly equivalent to a UK toddler size 7. Radiocarbon dating confirmed its age, making it possibly the smallest known Bronze Age shoe ever found. The leather is layered, 2 or maybe 3 sheets thick, with a faint woven pattern pressed into the sole. That level of detail for such a tiny piece is impressive on its own. Conservation efforts are underway to preserve it before it heads to the British Museum for further analysis, including what type of animal the leather came from. It's a delicate artifact, but it offers a personal and oddly intimate look at childhood over 3,000 years ago. Alright, now, let's move to number 10. Por-Bazhyn Complex. Sitting alone on an island in Lake Terracole, the ruins of Por-Bazhyn look like a fortress at first, but things don't quite add up. The structure, made of clay and wood, dates back to the 8th or 9th century. Initial theories assumed it was military, but when researchers looked closer, the layout resembled a Chinese-style royal palace, not a fortress. No human remains, tools, or day-to-day living evidence have been found inside, which is strange for a site this size. That's led many to believe it might have been a temple built for Tengriism, a now nearly forgotten belief system. The temple may have been commissioned by Tengri Bogu Khan, a ruler who adopted that faith, only to be violently overthrown 2 years later in an anti-Tengri revolt. With the religion banned, any structure tied to it became obsolete overnight. What's left now is a ghost of a place, perfectly shaped yet missing its people, a reminder that even powerfully built things can vanish in silence. Number 9. Prehistoric Tunnel Network in Europe. Archaeologist Dr. Heinrich Kusch claims there's a vast tunnel system under Europe, stretching from Scotland all the way to Turkey, not just scattered underground paths, but a potential network dug more than 12,000 years ago. That kind of labor, using only primitive tools, feels unreal, but site after site from the Neolithic era shows signs of these narrow passages. Most are barely wide enough for a person to crawl through. Others open into stone rooms with built-in seating, or chambers that look like makeshift shelters. No one knows what they were really for. Some think the tunnels were safe routes between communities during times of conflict or predator risk, but the real question is why they were made so narrow and tight if people had to regularly travel through them. These aren't just caves. They're intentionally carved structures, found beneath hundreds of ancient settlements. Whatever their purpose was, it required coordination across continents, something that doesn't quite fit with how we imagine prehistoric life. Number 8. Domus de Janas. Spread across the hills of Sardinia, the Domus de Janas tombs aren't confined to one spot. More than 2,000 of these Neolithic-era structures have been found, dating back about 5,400 years. Their name translates to Homes of the Fairies, a reference to local folklore. Each tomb was carved directly into rock, with curves and openings that seemed more melted than chiseled. Some are tiny, built for just one single burial, while others are elaborate, multi-roomed necropolises. There's a quiet intention in the layout. Door frames, roof beams, and house-like features etched into the walls, as if the dead were expected to settle in. Bullhead carvings once stood at the entrances, and faint traces of red paint still cling to some walls, signaling fertility and renewal. While modern shepherds sometimes use the tombs as animal pens, their original purpose is unmistakable. They weren't places of mourning. They were homes for the afterlife, built not with grandeur but with care, for people who believed death deserved shelter. Number 7. Oldest known tartan in Scotland. Well, this discovery is just super awesome. a weather-stained scrap of cloth pulled from a peat bog in Glen Affric, just reset the clock on Scotland's tartan history. Originally dug up in the 1980s, it was shelved and mostly ignored until researchers decided to test it properly. The results dated it to somewhere between 1500 and 1600, making it the oldest known true tartan ever found. It wasn't flashy, and it probably didn't belong to a noble or clan chief. Experts believe it was part of a working garment, likely worn for outdoor labor. The fabric was woven with natural dyes, no synthetics, no modern alterations, making it one of the rare surviving examples of pre-industrial textile craftsmanship. Even though the pattern can't be matched to a specific clan, the piece still holds national weight. It's now on display at the V and Dundee Design Museum, showcased for the first time in its full historical context. For something so unassuming, this small textile has stirred up a massive conversation about early Highland culture. What do you say? Number 6. Tower of Jericho. Near the Jordan River in the state of Palestine, what's left of the Tower of Jericho barely hints at what once stood there. Thousands of years ago, it was one of the earliest examples of large-scale construction, a 30-foot-high stone structure built over 11,000 years ago. That makes it older than most cities, older than writing, and almost older than agriculture itself. Archaeologists began uncovering it in 1952, following site identification back in 1930. Building something of that scale with Neolithic tools and techniques would have taken years, maybe even a full decade. Its purpose isn't confirmed. Some believe it was defensive, a warning to outsiders. Others think it may have had an astronomical use, marking the summer solstice when shadows from the mountains first hit the tower before reaching the rest of the city. Regardless of its role, the tower was an achievement far beyond its time. Most of it has been destroyed, but the foundation still speaks. It wasn't just built to last, it was built to matter. Number 5. Sheepskin documents. Legal documents written on sheepskin might sound unusual, but for centuries, they were standard across medieval England. The reason wasn't about scarcity. Vellum, parchment, and paper all existed. The choice came down to security. Sheepskin was harder to tamper with. Unlike calfskin or goatskin, it's made of tougher layers of fat and connective tissue that absorb ink in a way that's nearly impossible to erase without damage. Any attempt to alter a contract left a clear blemish, making fraud obvious. Even Richard FitzNeil, the 12th century treasurer under Henry II and Richard I, mentioned the practice in his writing. His reference suggests that this wasn't just a material choice, it was a system designed to protect legal integrity, and it worked. The use of sheepskin continued well into the 20th century, long after better materials were available. Only with the rise of digital systems did the tradition fade. Before computers, law and trust relied not on code but on fat, ink, and patience. Alright guys, now let's head over to Number 4. El Argar tomb. Well, now this one is a bit scary and sad. One particular tomb from the El Argar civilization is forcing archaeologists to rethink what they thought they knew about Bronze Age gender roles. Found in Grave 38, the remains of 2 individuals were unearthed, one male, one female, but it's the woman who held the power. Nearly every object buried alongside them belonged to her. Silver jewelry, spirals, ear ornaments, and most notably, a silver diadem still resting on her skull. Her status appears far above the man's. This wasn't a one-off. Similar burial patterns were noted in other graves from the 19th century, all pointing to women of prominence in El Argar society. The group thrived roughly 4,200 years ago in what's now southern Spain. Whether these women held actual political power or symbolic religious status isn't fully known, but either way, they stood far above most female figures of the time. While other cultures pushed women to the margins, El Argar may have elevated them to the very top of their world. They were good guys. Number 3. Sleeping Buddha statues. Photos surfaced in March 2021 showing 3 ancient Buddha statues lying beside trash bins behind the National Museum in Karachi. Each stood nearly 4 feet tall, carved from black schist stone and estimated to be around 1,500 years old. But instead of being preserved, they were dumped like discarded furniture. A whistleblower from the museum staff told local media the statues had been lying among garbage for over 3 months. When questioned, the museum's director, Mohammed Shah, doubled down, claiming the statues had been placed there for safekeeping and were in no danger. His reasoning? The stone was durable, but critics weren't buying it. Scholars believe these sculptures belong to the Gandhara civilization, known for its fusion of Greco-Roman and Buddhist artistic styles. These aren't minor relics, they're part of the region's historical identity. No official apology was issued, and the statues remained where they were. Disrespect, mismanagement, or bureaucratic failure, whatever the excuse, history doesn't belong in a garbage pile. And we feel sad for Pakistan. Why did they do that? Number Dos. Cantalloc Aqueducts. A few miles west of Nazca, a vast underground water network still runs through the dry Peruvian soil. Known as the Cantalloc Aqueducts, these spiral-shaped shafts and tunnels are part of the much larger Puquios system, a marvel of ancient hydraulic engineering. They're at least 1,500 years old, likely older, and whoever built them wasn't improvising. These systems kept water flowing year-round in a region that barely sees rain. Thanks to that infrastructure, Nazca's people grew cotton, beans, and potatoes even in a desert. The spiraling holes aren't just beautiful. They also create wind pressure to push air through the system, keeping water oxygenated and in motion. That kind of design wasn't just effective, it was decades ahead of its time. The aqueducts still work today, which says everything about their builders' precision. Nobody can say for sure who designed them, but one thing is 100% clear. Without this system, Nazca wouldn't have thrived. It would have stayed a dry patch of dust, forgotten by history. Number 1. Spider God Mural. In early 2021, archaeologists working in northern Peru uncovered a mural that changed how we think about ancient Andean beliefs. Painted roughly 3,200 years ago, the artwork features a massive spider clutching what appears to be a ceremonial knife. That single image sparked theories about a spider deity once worshipped by the Kapiznik culture, an early civilization known to have lived in the region. Given what we know about their spiritual practices, spiders may have been linked to fertility or rain, both essential for survival in the harsh landscape. The mural sits near a river they would have depended on, which makes the location feel intentional. Sadly, experts believe the mural was part of a much larger temple that's now gone, likely destroyed by farmers expanding their fields within the last couple of centuries. What's left behind still carries weight. A single god, half creature, half symbol, holding a blade in one hand and mystery in the other. What do you think about them? Well, drop your theory down below. And we hope you found this video interesting. If you did, please like, share, and subscribe to our channel for more content like this. Thanks for tuning in, and we'll see you in the next one.